I don't think they care about us.
Really?
No, I don't think so.
How come?
Again, we're in very speculative territory because nobody knows.
Right.
But I would think it would just be for resources. Hey, this place has a lot of stable water. That's
it?
useful.
Don't you think they would be fascinated with us as an emerging civilization? And like I always say, that if we found a planet that had cave people on it, like just starting to learn stone tools and stuff like that, we would for sure be interested in them. We would be so fascinated. And we would probably try to accelerate their learning curve.
You think we would?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, well, think of what a lot of these jerk-offs have done with, like, uncontacted tribes and stuff like that. We're always trying to intervene and do something with them.
You know the dark forest theory?
No.
It's Lucian Shah who wrote the three-body problem and all of those.
Oh.
So dark forest theory says that if you attain a certain level of technology, the best thing you can do is just be quiet. Because the universe is a dark forest, and the first person to stick his head out dies, because you don't want a competitor in your region. So as soon as a culture gets close to some technology that that they're on a path to threaten you, you got to take them out. You got to halt their technology. The three-body problem is kind of based on that. That's what they do in the books, and that seems to make a little more sense to me than sort of this altruistic, hey, let's help them, the Star Trek approach. Let's make first contact and all of that. I like, human nature is a tricky thing. We're very selfish. You and I might want to see those people and help them along, but there's a lot of people that would not want a competitor in the neighborhood.
Yeah, maybe. But what if they don't even think of us as a competitor? What if they're so advanced? Like if they're millions of years advanced, wouldn't they like this is the thing that Diana Pasulka and Gary Nolan and a lot of these people that study crashed retrievals, there's a term that they use that these are donations.
Right.
That these vehicles are donations, and that the idea is we're supposed to look at this and formulate new ideas through reverse engineering.
And there's circumstantial evidence that that's true. If you look at Bell Labs and all the crazy discoveries after Roswell, like we're using cathode ray tubes and suddenly transistors are made and silicon semiconductors and wireless transmission. And Bell Labs is all these leaps forward.
Fiber optics,
laser technology came out of Bell as well. And, the retrieval experts say that fiber optics and lasers for sure is reverse engineered. And it kind of makes a lot of sense because it seemed to have come out of nowhere. Suddenly Bell Labs has it. But it's my question is where is the stuff? We've got World War II. We go into Korea in 1950, and at the time, Russia had the MiG-15 was basically on par with us. I think we had the F-86 at the time, and MiG might have even been better. So that would have been a great time for some advanced tech. But America did catch up and exceed the Soviets about 51, 52, during Korea, and then has been superior ever since. But you would think that after 47, with the Soviets there, let's get some of this anti-gravitic stuff going.
Yeah, maybe the problem is that you're working in this very compartmentalized environment, so you're not allowed to share with all these different scientists. So because of that, there's no collaboration, which is necessary for real innovation. You have to have experts from a bunch of different fields analyzing all the different aspects of it. This is what Lazar pointed to, the problems that they were having at S4 when they were trying to back engineer this stuff. He's like, you can't do science like this because everything is so top secret and so compartmentalized. The metallurgists were not allowed to talk to the propulsions people, and no one was allowed to talk to anybody else, and everybody was just like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
right.
What are these things? They didn't even tell him, allegedly, if the story's true. They didn't even tell him where this thing came from. They show it to him, and there's a United States flag sticker on it. And he's like, oh, this is ours. Oh, that makes sense. And then he's examining. He's like, oh, no, it's not. Like, there's no seams in this thing. Like, what is this? What is the metal? Why is it designed for something that's 3 feet tall? Like, there's no controls inside this thing. Like, what is this reactor? How does this thing work?
There's a chair.
Yeah.
There's a couple of chairs. It looks like there's a neural interface, maybe. You hear a lot of the scientists their frustration. Like, if I could just talk to these guys,
Right.
you know, I'm picking up an EM field from this. The metallurgist would be helpful here to tell me
Right.
what's going on. You know, I keep coming across spinning mercury all the time.
Spinning mercury.
The spinning mercury engine has been part of the lore since ancient India has the Vimanas, you know, those craft. If you look at the ancient texts, it may have been in the Mahabharata.
Yeah.
But they allude to this liquid metal. And then you fast forward to like the Nazis building the Bell, the Die Glocke. That was a mercury engine. And then we fast forward a little further, Mark McCandlish and the ARV vehicle, the I forget, the flux liner. That's spinning mercury engine. So spinning mercury keeps popping up. And spinning mercury would cause some type of field. What that would be, I'm not a scientist or physicist, I'm not sure, but it would certainly throw off a bunch of ions that could maybe be harnessed or used for something.
Well, it's like we're trying to explain things to us based on our current understanding of technology. Like, glass was invented a long time ago, but imagine showing up with a brand new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra with Gorilla Glass, you know, in that thin frame, and looking at that. They were, what the fuck is this?
There'd be statues of you
Right.
for 1,000 years.
Well, you know what glass is, you know what metal is, right? Well, this is glass and metal. You're like, what?
What?
No, what the fuck is this?
We took sand and made it real hot, and it made it clear. Huh?
What? And
Right.
you can drop it on the concrete and it doesn't break.
Right.
What? Yeah. So just our current understanding of technology based on the origins of that technology, just metal and glass. You know, you show someone metal and glass is thousands of years old, show them what we have now with metal and glass, they'd be blown away. And you just keep going. Go 1,000 years from now. Like, what does it all look like? It's like probably some sort of gravity propulsion system, probably 3D printed, so there are no seams.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the frustration about disclosure, is how far could we be by now?
Right.
You know, had there been disclosure in 47 or whenever.
It's even more of a psyop if it's all bullshit. Like, it's a psyop if it actually is like, wow, the government is actually really good at one thing. They're good at keeping secrets about UFOs.
That's right.
But if they're not, if it's all bullshit, like, boy, how weird that we've been like focusing on this nonsense. Like, as a culture, it got in the front page of the New York Times in 2017, but meanwhile it's all nonsense.
Right. And
That's almost less likely.
well, if you look at what Doty did in the 70s and 80s with Paul Benowitz, when Benowitz discovered this advanced technology on Kirtland Air Force Base, you know, he called the base and said, "Hey, I think there's UFOs." So they send Doty out. He was Air Force Intelligence, OSI. They send him out to Benowitz, and he's like, "Paul, I think it might be UFOs. It is aliens." And Paul gets a little bit wacky, and he starts intercepting signals from outer space, and they're sending him messages, but it turned out it's really the NSA rented a house across the street, and Paul is committed at some point. And then Doty, over the years, changes his story and says, no, a lot of it is actually true. But Doty has also, he said as recently as 2019, Hal Puthoff tried to recruit him for a disinformation campaign with ATIP.
Really? So Hal Puthoff has been a part of disinformation campaigns.
Allegedly forever.
And what have they been doing with these disinformation campaigns? What have they been trying to muddle?
Just to keep guys like you and me fascinated and trying to figure stuff out while they can just operate their advanced technology in peace. Like, let them think it's aliens and UFOs. That's fine.
What a dirty thing to do to
Filthy.
us.
In the 50s, they were very public about anti-gravity. It was in the
Yeah.
papers.
Yeah.
The G engine. They were talking about it. And then suddenly, whoosh, quiet.
Yeah. Jesse Michaels talks about that all the time, the Townsend Brown.
Yes.
Yeah.
Townsend, and Ning Lee, remember her story, the physicist who disappeared?
Right. And then she died in a car accident after she came back from China.
Oops.
Whoopsies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was AC Gravity. If you guys want to look that up, she used to give talks and all of that. She was funded by DOD for $400,000, so we know that for sure. And then she just goes dark. She goes dark for 11 years. Shows up, I think, in 2013. She's back. 2014, she gets hit by a car.
Why is it so fun?
I don't know. Mark McClan just found all that stuff, ended up killing himself
All
later
this
on.
stuff is so fun, which is why the Y files are so good. because it's like I always get the same feeling when I watch your show. It's like, oh, what is the answer? What is real? What is it? But what is it about us that's so intrigued by these mysteries? I mean, there's so much that we know that is real. Just the nature of the cosmos itself, of black holes and solar nurseries and all the wild shit that's absolutely real. But there's these things that are like, yeah, but what is that?
I don't think enough people are interested in it, to be honest. I think that's part of the problem.
Well, do you think it's because for the most part it's dismissed, and if you engage in it, so like if you're a normal person, not like you or I, but if you're a person that has like a job in an accounting firm, you're like a very respected, legitimate person, especially like pre-2017, pre the New York Times article, and you want to start talking about like gravity propulsion systems that the government's been hiding, and that there's back engineering programs, they've got crashed UFOs, and there's one of them, it's only like a couple hundred feet wide, but you go inside of it, it's the size of a football field. Like,
right, like
what?
the TARDIS.
Yeah. Or the one in Korea that's so big they had to build a building around it because they couldn't move it.
Right.
I want to know what that is.
Same. I wish more people were interested in it.
I would almost be willing to run for president just to get access. Just if I ran for president, the company would be in shambles, but everybody would know everything about UFOs.
Dude, you have no shot.
I have no shot. They would kill me for sure. You know, Herbert Walker was the guy that Hal Puthoff and a bunch of these scientists, he brought them together and said, we have recovered a crashed UFO more than one occasion, and we have a back engineering program, and we're considering disclosure to the American people. I want you to list the positives, the positive impact of society, and the negatives.
Yeah.
And they did it with quite a few different scientists, and they all had more negatives than positive.
If they came out with this information,
Exactly.
to share this information, what would be the
Exactly.
effect on society?
Yes.
More
And
negatives than positives.
More negatives than positives.
Because
disruption of religion, government,
how does
economy.
that disrupt religion?
Well, I mean, it
I
depends on your
understand how it
religion.
does. I just don't.
Depends on your religion, you know, and depends on where these things are from and what is happening. What do we know?
In the Bible, Ezekiel has golden chariots from the sky.
Exactly. Yeah, and a wheel within a wheel. Yeah, the Ezekiel stuff sounds like a UFO encounter. And it's not the only version of that in ancient texts. In the ancient Hindu texts, they have vimanas, these things that are flying through the sky. Like, what are those things? You know, in the Rig Veda, even in the Bhagavad Gita, there's all these depictions of these things that sound like you're talking about a spaceship or at the very least some kind of technology. Like this thing about the Nephilim, like that the gods mated with women and created men who are monstrous. Boy, doesn't that sound like aliens came down and genetically manipulated primates and created human beings? That's a version of it that you could imply from the text. It's all really weird stuff, man. Like really weird. If you found out that was all true, it would probably change everything about society. And this is what Herbert Walker and those guys decided after. So Hal Puthoff was explaining it to me on the podcast, like how they put a numerical value to each thing. I'm like, like we were that close?
Right.
Like imagine if that happened. This is 1990, right?
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but these kind of really weird things, as you put them, they excite you more than they give you fear. Would that be fair?
Yeah. I mean,
you seem excited. You get excited about different possibilities.
yes.
I mean, you know, I have people go, oh, man, no, Rogan loves these conspiracy theories. Like, I don't see him liking the conspiracy theories. I see him always being interested in an alternate way something went down and being interested and excited about that, but not going, no, never disengaging from it and going, no way, no, because I believe how it was and what I read, and that's how it is. That's not where you're moving from.
No, it's never a denial of information and facts. And it's also a recognition that oftentimes a large swath of society just goes with a narrative without having any real understanding of what the actual facts behind it are. And then there's that term, this pejorative term, conspiracy theory. The problem with that, calling someone a conspiracy theorist, is conspiracies are real. Like, there's a lot of evidence, and if you want to sit down, I could fucking show you a ton of them. And so anybody who says like, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist," I'm like, okay, let's talk about conspiracies. Like, do you think that any of them exist? Do you think that people conspire? Is it like it's a natural part of human behavior that's been documented throughout history, even governments? I mean,
Sure.
Literally, the thing that got us into the Vietnam War was a conspiracy. It was fake. The Gulf of Tonkin, it was a false flag operation. It never took place at all. They lied to the American people. That's a conspiracy. Like, that's just one conspiracy that turns out to be true. There's a lot of them. The problem is people don't want to look like a conspiracy theorist. They've done such a good job of making it a goofy term that you don't ever want attached to you. It can cause damage to your reputation.
Yeah.
If you're in a job where people have to take you seriously, fortunately I'm not, but if you're in a job where people have to take you seriously, you don't want to say anything weird like, hey, I think aliens are real. Like, people think you're a kook, and then they discount your opinion on everything.
Yeah.
But if you just know the actual facts, like people that don't think there's anything, that aliens are real, there's no way, we're alone, we've never been contacted.
Why not?
Gary Nolan, the guy who was on here yesterday that was talking about cancer research, he was also telling us about a piece of wreckage they found from a craft. Was it 1950 that they found it? Which one? The first one, the Silica one? So they have direct chain of possession of this evidence from, I believe it was 1950. And it was almost pure silica, and the magnesium ratios were so off that he said that this magnesium had to have been sourced from a place that experienced a neutron bomb every 2 minutes for 900 years. That's how off the isotopes were to magnesium that we find here on Earth. He's like, I'm not saying it's impossible for someone to ever do that, but I'm saying this is from 1950. Like, this is a real piece of what they're saying is a wreckage of a craft. And it has a material composition that is impossible for a normal person to create in 1950. So what the fuck is this?
Right.
And you say that to people, and they're like, oh. So Gary Nolan, who's a professor at Stanford, he's a professor in the what is his forensics? Is that what his he does cancer research, but what is his actual title? Stanford School of Medicine professor. Anyway, rock solid credentials, published, and people brought him this material, and they said, would you analyze this? Because you know all these different scientists. And endowed chair, Department of Pathology, Stanford School of Medicine. So when a guy like that is saying, no, this is a composition of this piece of wreckage that you can't make here.
Right.
They found a type of alloy that doesn't exist on Earth, and it has, on an atomic level, layers upon layers of whatever this alloy is. He's like, this cost billions of dollars to create, and they found it in 1970. Like, in 1970, no one had this. It's not possible to make. Like, maybe you can make it today, but we don't have the equipment to make it today. You could conceive how someone with enough resources could have that money today to do something like that, but it would be an enormous undertaking.
Yeah.
And this is a piece of craft that someone found from 1976. So when a guy like that is telling you, like, I'm not saying what it is, I'm not saying where it's from, but I'm saying this is fucking crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't add up to what we could practically do.
So when someone says conspiracies, like, I feel like I'm being lied to.
Me too.
And here's the thing. I wonder if that's because disclosure, I imagine in my head that it would be this grand moment, and the clouds would part, and we would figure out that we're not alone in the universe. And maybe this reality of what they're disclosing, that they have recovered alien spacecraft, that they have biological creatures from another planet that they have frozen or from another dimension, they are in possession of both craft and biologics. They know that aliens are real. Maybe it's just that is so strange and so alien that my mind is not registering it as a possibility, even though it can be a possibility. If you just look at the stars in the sky and look at what we know about biology on Earth, It's totally possible that this, in this infinite universe, has occurred other places and gotten to a much more advanced stage.
I love that they were able to cross galaxies and then they couldn't land.
No, that's not the thing. It's like the thing is,
It stopped the rain from falling onto the ship.
even if you have
from
like the
stem to
most
stem.
advanced spaceships, like think about cars. They're so much more advanced than they've ever been before. Thousands of people still die every year in
Right.
car accidents.
Yeah.
If you have electrical storms, and the very famous case in Varginha, Brazil, which James Fox
glanced up
did
and
this
saw a
documentary
glow
called The
above
Moment
us
of
in the sky.
Contact. It's amazing.
And when he went-
It's about this town in 1996 in Brazil that experienced just universal sightings. Everyone in the town saw these flying saucers and saw that there was this giant lightning storm and something appeared to have crashed. And these
Watching
people
the
went
ominous
to the
light,
side of this crash
the
site
object
and they
suddenly
said that
grew
there was
bigger
biological
before-
entities. One of them was badly injured. This guy carried it. This police officer carried it. He put it in the back of a car. They took it to a hospital. They kicked him out, took it to another hospital. The guy who carried it developed a horrible bacterial infection that they could not cure, and he was dead within 2 weeks. They didn't know what it was. There's documentation of them bringing this thing to these different hospitals. There's documentation of this guy dying of this horrible bacterial infection. There's all these eyewitnesses. The town, when you enter into the town, has an actual statue of this fucking UFO that like is in the center, like as you're entering into the town.
Identified
Like, they're
objects flying in
famous
the
for this
skies of the
incident.
southern
Wow.
Campeche
They said the
state.
U.S. Air Force sent a plane down there to recover the wreckage and return it back to America. This guy, David Grush, who's the whistleblower, has exposed that they supposedly have a retrieval program for crashed UFOs and that it's happened multiple times
Recall
over the course of
event
human
the
history.
objects flying at
This
an
was what
altitude
Bob
of
Lazar was
about
talking about in
11,000.
1989.
Why keep it a secret? Like, I don't understand.
Well, I think they don't want to anymore. And I think there's part of it that it's like it's not beneficial to keep it a secret. And that too many people who feel like this is an important thing that the world should be aware of, and that maybe this could actually be a uniting moment for
One
us.
of the plane's
if we
captain
realize that
said
Space
that the
Daddy is really
military
like watching
jet-
everything we do, and like there are something that's here, whether it's interdimensional, whether it's from another planet.
That would be
something
very
far more
unifying.
advanced. Very unifying.
You know, but I don't believe it. But I
What do
appreciate
you
it.
think? What do you think is going on then? Why do you think they're having these?
I think it's
Iranian
impossible to keep a secret,
military has
especially a secret of that
encountered their own
magnitude. There's
UFOs
there's
as
no
well.
way.
They're not keeping it. That's one of the things. It's
But
getting
they
out.
have since the 30s, according to these whistleblowers.
But have they? Because look, Bob Lazar talked about this very program exactly
I know.
in
Did
1989.
he?
Exactly.
But was he talking about a drone program?
The pilot
And do we
of
have
that
technologies
aircraft
that
described
we
the
are not
object
aware
as
of that can do things
spherical.
that make no sense? You know,
Perhaps.
it's kind of like the Manhattan Project, right? We might have some technological breakthroughs that we are not sharing with other countries, and that may be the case. So the U.S. military may have game-changing technologies.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
certainly possible.
that-
and a lot of
that
people think
sounds
that's
more
what
plausible.
a lot of people think that's what that Tic Tac incident is off the coast of San Diego in 2004. It's a famous one where Commander David Fravor, they have multiple instrumentation, the documentation of like where this thing was, and it was at 50,000 plus feet above sea level, and it went down to 50 in less than a second. It took
Yes.
off at insane rates
That's
of speed.
crazy.
They have multiple
That
pilots.
was 2004?
Yes,
Oh,
multiple jets more than one jet that had visual contact with this thing. They have video of this thing taking off. They estimated that at the speed that it took off, there was some sort of like analysis of what it would do to a biological entity, and like it would turn you into jelly. It would just the amount of force required to go that
G-forces,
fast,
yeah.
that quick. It was something like I forget what the G-force was, but it was something insane. Some insane number of G-force that it was taking off that fast. Like, there's no way a biological entity would survive.
Right.
But the question is, like, why would we assume that it's a biological entity? It doesn't have any windows. It's this round thing that looks like a Tic Tac. If there is some sort of advanced propulsion system, some revolutionary way of moving through space and time that the U.S. government has developed, in some Black Ops program, that seems very likely impossible. That seems more likely than aliens visiting us. But there's more than one incident, and there's a lot of these things. And the possibility of alien life in the universe, although we've never experienced it, seems rational. It seems very rational. And if you were going to study an emerging civilization, that is both primitive and warlike and yet insanely technologically advanced to the point where they have nuclear weapons, they can transmit video through the sky, they have propaganda, they have tracking of their citizens. Like, that's us. That's us right now. And while we are these territorial primal beings with fucking nuclear weapons, this would be a good time to start exposing yourself.
Yes.
And to stop this nonsense.
Insanity.
Yeah. And look, the reason why we named the rooms at our club Fat Man and Little Boy is because in UFO lore, that's when they started showing up. After the detonation of the atomic bombs in Japan, that's when the UFO sightings ramped up.
And they ramped up mostly in the U.S., right?
Yes.
So that's interesting because the U.S. was the nuclear power. So.
And we were the one who was doing a lot of fucking testing.
Yeah.
You know, and also we have all these military bases. Who the fuck has more military bases than us?
No one.
Who has more nuclear weapons pointed at other people than us? We have them all over the place. And there's all these multiple sightings and eyewitness accounts of like very credible people who say these things have hovered over military bases.
It'd be pretty cool if these aliens were benevolent overlords. And they were like, hey, my children.
Yeah.
You know?
Or maybe even so advanced intellectually that the concept of an overlord is preposterous. And they're just biological management. There's just the gardeners tending to make sure the weeds don't get out of hand and just like let this process continue to play itself out. Because this process of technological innovation it's the everything that humans do.
Yeah.
It's what we do at the pinnacle of our creation is we make better technology.
Well, I always wonder about fractals and whether or not, like, this idea of this being a simulation, this being, you know, like we are kind of replicating, we are creating machines and doing our best to create them in our own image, right?
Yes.
And that's interesting. You know, that's because the mythologies that we subscribe to are the idea that this God that we pray to made us in his image. Right. And we're doing the same thing now with robots and computers. And that's an interesting thing that we seem to have this sort of paradigm, this idea that that's the scaffolding for the way we think, right? And to what end? And why are we doing that?
Maybe it's the
and has
creation
it
of a
already
new life
happened?
form.
But has it already happened? Are we the result of that impulse that happened a long time ago?
I think we are the shit-throwing chimps that are going to become the nuclear physicists.
That's what
we are the shit-throwing chimps from 2001 that
Yeah.
become Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think this thing that we become is integrated with technology. It's probably some sort of a hybrid. It's some sort of a cyborg.
That's wild.
Because I think we're already like on the verge of merging. You know, all this talk of like Neuralink and all these various things. We watched this video the other day of this guy who was Googling questions and getting answers in his head with his headpiece on. Have you seen that thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Incredible. Right? So how long before that is like that's Pong?
I know. But that's
and then you have the Unreal 4 engine in 2023 that looks like a movie.
No.
Like how long before that technology gets to the point where it's just supremely advanced and we literally are like gods.
But my question really is also the idea that that's engineering, right? That's a tool.
It's innovation.
But there's engineering. So there are two aspects to it. One is getting information faster and stuff, which doesn't get you closer to the truth, but it gets you information faster. There are endless facts. But more importantly, I always wonder, like, why we are given this. I really believe that human potential is pretty much infinite. Whatever you can imagine and beyond, we can do. And we are doing. We seem to be doing this. Like, think about how crazy that is. I can wear a headset and I can do things with my mind and look up the answer.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's magic. It's crazier than magic. But there's a way to measure that and quantify that and replicate that. So it's not magic. I can do it and I can tell you exactly how I get there, which is even crazier. So what is that leading us to? It is nudging us closer. It's like I think it's very significant that we're getting a better understanding of what it's like to be someone else. Yeah. We are. It's really hard to say that a Yanomamo Indian or whoever it might be thinks about things differently than I do when I know so much about how all these human beings, like someone in Iran, someone in Jordan, laughs and cries and bleeds at the same thing I do. You know, it's being prejudiced based on what that person looks like over there is becoming harder and harder to justify. Where it was before we knew about that, we were like, well, those people over there are quote unquote savages, or they're this, that, and the other thing. And I do think that we are getting a better understanding of what it's like to be each other and being nudged in the same direction. I'm not saying we don't become tribal.
I think that's true too.
But why? And it's interesting to think about where that's leading us to what understanding. And then when we have that understanding, what are we going to do about that?
Right. And are we going to pull it together? And are the aliens here to make sure that we don't fuck it up?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the beautiful idea. The terrible idea is that it's all us. And then it's all a big ruse, and it's all just drones that we're doing because we don't want China and Russia to know about it. But we have insane propulsion systems that operate on gravity. And
yeah. I think it is us.
But
I hate to tell you.
It seems like both. It seems like us, and it also seems like there's some shit that we just don't understand. And I don't know if those people are telling the truth. Because if the people that are telling the truth that there's biological entities, and this is what Jackie Gleason said that Nixon told him, and Nixon took him on they were drinking. You know that famous story?
No.
Who knows if it's true? It's a legend. But the legend is that Jackie Gleason and Nixon were drinking, and that Nixon said, "You want to see some fucking aliens?" And they get on Air Force One, and they fly to some Air Force base, and they go to a place where they have a crashed UFO, and they have biological beings that are in freezers. And Jackie Gleason sees this. And Jackie Gleason, after that, has a house built in upstate New York that looks like a UFO. I'm sure you followed Avi Loeb.
Yeah.
Like his idea, which he has very fantastic ideas about these objects that are coming from outside of our solar system. And the latest one is this enormous object that's moving at 130,000 miles an hour and is headed our way.
Yeah, 3i Atlas. Yeah.
Hubble makes size estimate of interstellar comet.
Yeah, this is a photo. It just dropped yesterday. Yeah, came out, and this is from the Hubble Space Telescope. So
is this that thing?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, God.
So, Avi was suggesting this could be an alien spacecraft of some kind. He's obviously done this before with Oumuamua, which you might remember. I think he came on here and talked about that. Yeah.
I know a lot of people are mad at him, though, so I wanted to get your take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like throwing shit at other scientists. That's just not that's not how I jam. I try to be respectful and appreciative of his contributions, of any scientist's contributions. And I think some of his work, I was actually referencing some of his work just the other day to get inspired for another paper. So he's had a huge impact in so many different areas. I do think he's off base on this one, but he doesn't need to be persecuted for that. I just think he's made the wrong call. With this in particular object, so there was three reasons I think why he thought this could be alien. One was the size of the thing appeared to be really big. So it was unclear originally whether it was an asteroid or a comet. And that makes a big difference. If it's a comet, then it's probably a really small thing surrounded by puffy dust around it. So what you see is actually not the true size. The true size is much smaller than what you see. It's just all the coma, as we call it, around it. If it's an asteroid, then that whole thing is a giant rock, right? So it's freaking huge in that case. It'd be like 10 to 20 kilometers bigger than Mount Everest. It'd be a huge piece of rock. But I think Avi's probably made the wrong bet on that one, because as we saw in the Hubble image, that there's a freaking coma around that thing. There's no doubt. And we've actually imaged it with the Hubble Space Telescope. James Webb looked at it yesterday.
So it is a comet then.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt it's a comet at this point.
Can you show me that image again, Jamie? So this most recent image, does this sort of discredit his hypothesis?
Not complete. It discredits the idea, because his idea was if it's 10 to 20 kilometers in size, that just shouldn't happen. That's too big by chance for a rock to stray into the solar system that's that big, because there just shouldn't be that many big rocks lurking around in deep space. If it's a smaller comet, there's actually a size estimate now that puts it at a couple of kilometers, I think, as the upper limit. It
says the nucleus is 5.6 kilometers. All it could be as small as 320 meters across.
Yeah, so that makes it, as if it's 300 meters across, I mean, it's just a completely normal comet.
And so that image, that indicates a comet versus an asteroid?
Yeah, because you can see this diffuse coma all around it. So that all that stuff, there's actually, even today, there was a paper published that detected water coming off it. So we detected, which is what comets do. They produce OH emission as they fly through. So we know without any doubt it's a comet at this point. But there's still some weird things. It's moving really freaking fast. That was the other thing Avi pointed out. It's moving 58 kilometers per second, which is, hugely quick through the solar system. I think that just means it's old. So generally what happens is as rocks hang out in deep space, they encounter other stars. And every time they encounter a star, they get slingshotted, basically. So they kind of speed up a little bit every time they encounter something. So generally expect that the older something is, the more it's been pumped up in terms of its speed. So Oumuamua was moving really slowly. And Avi said it's moving suspiciously slowly, therefore it's aliens. And then for this one, it's moving really fast. And Avi's saying it's moving so fast, it's suspicious, therefore it's aliens. So I think that doesn't really jive. I think that doesn't make any sense. It's probably just an old rock that's about 7 billion years old. And that's cool because it's older than the solar system, right?
Yeah.
So if we intercept that thing, we could sample material from not only another star system, but before even a whole solar system existed.
Well, it's going to be
past.
here in October, right?
It's already about 2.5 AU from the sun. It's coming in. It will pass behind the sun in October and then come on its way back out. So James Webb is observing it right now, or just a couple of days ago was observing it. And then it will observe it again on the way out in November.
So it's going to be behind the sun.
Yeah. So that was the other thing Avi was pointing out, was the trajectory is a little bit suspicious because it kind of goes behind the sun. We can't observe it when it's at closest approach. That's called perihelion. We can't observe it then because it just happens to be behind the sun. And it comes very close to Mars as well. So it comes within about 0.2 astronomical units of Mars. So that's it's not like it'd be a threat to Mars. It's still really far out, but it comes suspiciously close, Avi claimed. And to me, I don't buy that as evidence for aliens because, why are they so interested? If they're aliens, they seem more interested in Mars than they do the Earth, right? Why would you choose your closest approach to be when you can't even observe the Earth at all because you're behind the sun? And the closest planet you come to is Mars. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me as to what the motive there would be. So, yeah, and I think the fact now it just clearly looks like a comet kind of pours a lot of cold water on it. But I do think it's not a crazy idea that this could be happening. It's a valid scientific hypothesis that there could be stuff going through our solar system which is not natural. And we're going to detect hundreds of these things with the Rubin telescope. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So I think there's an exciting future for this field to try and intercept these things. There's a mission the Europeans are building called the Comet Interceptor. It's going to launch in 2029. And that's just going to hang out in deep space, waiting for the next one to come. And they haven't necessarily committed to an interstellar object at this point, but they could do it, and they could turn on the engines and catch up with that thing, sample it, land on it. I mean, that would be dope. That'd be landing on an exoplanet, right?
Yeah.
That'd be like seeing stuff from another entire star system for the first time.